It's ironic that diamonds, the beautiful stones that many cultures use to celebrate love and marriage, have also been used to finance war and violence. African countries are among the world's greatest source of diamonds. They're also where millions of people have been killed and uprooted in battles to control them. In the late 1990s, the world learned that criminal warlords like Charles Taylor used what came to be known as blood diamonds to finance the death and destruction they inflicted on unarmed civilians in Sierra Leone and other African countries. Conflict diamonds have been a huge problem. Over 70 million people live in African countries that have been torn apart by struggles over diamonds and other minerals. The wars and rebellions shattered already weak economies, spread disease, and created millions of refugees. Responding to this growing crisis, the United Nations, governments of diamond-producing and trading countries, including the United States, joined forces with the industry and civil society to create a system to reduce the market for conflict diamonds. In 2002, these organizations created the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme to combat trade in conflict diamonds on a worldwide basis. The U.S. Congress passed the Clean Diamond Trade Act to support and fund the effort. In order to restrict conflict diamonds from entering the marketplace, the Kimberley process creates a system for tracing diamonds from their source to the world diamond market. It's an ambitious goal made even more difficult by the nature of artisanal diamond mining. Throughout the rainforests of Central Africa, surrounding some of the great river basins and the streams that flow into them, there are significant deposits of alluvial diamonds scattered in the subsoil. Over time, rivers and streams erode rock formations containing diamonds, and the stones show up in the sediment downstream from the source rocks. Artisanal miners in remote areas dig up the diamonds using just basic tools and backbreaking labor. The small scale and remote locations make alluvial diamonds very hard to trace. For these reasons, they're perfectly suited to being used by warlords and criminals and are therefore of deep concern for the Kimberley process. In spite of the value of the stones they find, diamond mining communities are desperately poor. Their poverty is accompanied by a host of other problems: poor health and malnutrition, rampant teen pregnancy, high rates of HIV/AIDS, low literacy rates, and widespread environmental degradation. The miners, living at the edge of survival, are easy to exploit, not only by warlords and criminals, but on a daily basis by dishonest buyers who cheat them on price.
Chaîne du diamant, si vous regardez la chaîne du diamant qui va de l'artisan au collecteur, au bureau d'achat, eh bien, le plus perdant, c'est l'artisan minier. Là où, dans le haut de la chaîne, vous voyez des gens qui ont des grosses villas, des grosses voitures, qui voyagent à l'étranger, eh bien, dans le bas de la chaîne, c'est la misère. Voilà. Et donc, nous avons voulu rééquilibrer ce contexte-là.
One problem facing many countries that want to comply with the Kimberley process is determining who owns the mines where the stones were found. Land ownership at the grassroots level, where artisanal miners work, is confusing, stemming from the existence of parallel systems, one customary and the other statutory. How to reconcile customary and statutory systems is a challenge. In the Central African Republic, the United States Agency for International Development sponsored a pilot project launched in 2007 called PRADD, the Property Rights and Artisanal Diamond Development Project. It's designed to identify and test methods to strengthen property rights and production accounting, in order to improve compliance with the Kimberley process. The project also seeks to raise incomes and living standards for miners and mining communities. As the owner of a small diamond mining claim, Madeleine Wakambo is called the chef de chantier. She lives in the heart of the pilot zone and worked with the PRADD team on the project.
Formation sociale donc l'éduquer le monde éducation de base pendre de façon normalement éduquer donc je suis en doko je crois que c'est sur l'étude à Kanga depuis 1960 na temps ça babati donc l'étude à Kanga mais ARD à Ghana yati l'an 2000 a commencé en l'an 2007 le sinani bon l'étude azi.
The PRADD project is a pilot intended to validate procedures for protecting the rights of the individual artisanal miner, the community in which that person lives, as well as increasing the revenue to the central government and by extension the entire population of the Central African Republic.
The property rights of artisanal miners are rooted in customary rules and traditions, but these rights are not written or recorded anywhere. The absence of formal property rights and the failure to maintain production records make it difficult to trace the diamonds they find. PRADD developed a systematic process to identify miners and help them affirm their customary property rights claims, providing them a measure of protection they never had before. At the same time, it helps the government to comply with the Kimberley process by identifying the exact source of the diamonds.
Et là, je montre la tombe de mon père, Yaba David, qui a beaucoup travaillé pour la localité.
Clans and tribes continue to play an important role in determining customary property rights.
Boy Biawan Fidel, qui fut aussi chef, il a régné de 1964.
These customary rights are invisible to the state and difficult to document, but they are very real to the people living in villages all over Central Africa.
Ça, c'est la tombe de mon grand-frère, qui est le fils de Yaba.
These rights are rooted in tribal history and culture and managed by traditional leaders in the local communities.
Il fut aussi maire, mais c'est un haut personnel de la localité, décédé en 2002.
Voilà, maintenant qu'on a la première liste.
Kent Elbow, a land tenure specialist, worked with Zephyrin Mogba and the rest of the PRADD team to design and test the methodology for translating customary rights to statutory rights.
Basically, the approach of our project is to try to link these parallel systems, the statutory and the customary, by bringing the customary, non-formal rules and regulations and rights into the statutory system.
In order to define the customary rights of miners in the pilot zone, the team developed an 8-step process that combined community development techniques to identify, organize, and motivate the miners with GPS devices to precisely locate the mines. The work began with a participatory rural appraisal, a creative process where men and women from the community gathered to map their environment. Looking at their environment in this new way can be a powerful experience. It helped change their perspective on their own resources and how best to use them. The rural appraisal process gave the PRADD team an overview of the community. Step 2, conducting a census of the miners, was a focused effort to generate the facts on mine ownership. The next step was a socio-economic survey. It included a more formal survey with a detailed questionnaire that was given to every single miner. The miners described not only the location of their mine, but also how and when they acquired ownership of it. In every step of the process, the information about the mines and mine ownership became more accurate. In this next step, the PRADD team located each mine site using GPS devices. It was time-consuming, but it generated critical information. With the precision of the GPS coordinates, they often discovered new facts about ownership and location that didn't come out in previous steps. These GPS points connect the mine site locations to an amazing amount of metadata that's available from GIS sources, including data on vegetation, water, and other resources that can be useful in land use planning.
Ils ont localisé les chantiers par des coordonnées géographiques à partir de GPS. Et donc, même que vous êtes aux États-Unis, en Allemagne, en N'Djamena, vous pouvez, sur la carte de la République centrafricaine, connaître tel chantier, telle localisation appartient à l'artisan X avec une superficie de mètres carrés. Et donc, c'est une localisation précise avec le GPS.
The team regarded the miners' claims as provisional until it was determined that there were no conflicts. To handle the few conflicts that did come up, the team developed a successful community-driven mediation process to resolve them. Once the miners' claims were identified and precisely located, and after they determined that the claims were clear of any conflict, the claims were then publicly validated in front of the community.
Et que le chef de chantier, donc, un peu comme un bon côté, tu n'as pas que le chef de chantier. Donc, pourquoi tu colles tout? Est-ce que la ligne a que Mboli pour la Pascaline a que chef de chantier? Mais tu te ne quoi tenir le chantier tout le son de tout le garazo à canal gani. Bon, quand il pique un bon côté, tu es validé.
Everyone was pleased with the results of the validation process: the miners, the Central African government, and USAID. To celebrate their accomplishment, the U.S. Ambassador, Frederick Cook, joined national, regional, and local Central African officials in Boswi to distribute certificates. The artisans were proud of their accomplishment. For the first time, they had a written document that affirmed their claims. According to the current laws in the Central African Republic, the first step towards legalization is the acquisition of a license called a patent, which gives the miner permission to mine a specific site. It comes with a logbook called a cahier de production to help them track the diamonds they find. The government is considering new laws and practices to expand recognition of customary property rights.
Notre souhait, c'est de demander d'étendre le projet dans d'autres sites miniers qui ne sont pas encore couverts par ce projet, pour que tous les artisans connaissent l'importance de l'utilisation des cahiers, l'importance même du code minier, et qu'ils soient dans la légalité pour le bien-être, pour d'abord leur propre bien-être et pour le pays.
How customary property rights become integrated into a government's legal or statutory system will vary from country to country, but the success of PRADD's pilot program in affirming customary rights proves that it has enormous value for all the stakeholders, the miners, the government, and the Kimberley process. After going through the property rights process and getting their certificates, the miners spoke with greater confidence about their rights, knowing they had a document that verified their property and its exact location. They're now in a stronger position to negotiate a win-win solution if an industrial mining company or a government organization ever challenged their rights. Equally important, the process and what the miners learned going through it changed their attitude about the tangible rewards of operating legally.
Il y a déjà un début de changement de mentalité. Un début de changement de mentalité parce que ceux qui étaient plus résistants au début commencent à être moins résistants. Et je crois peut-être au bout d'1 an, 2 ans, on finira par asseoir cette politique qui va amener tout le monde à se mettre en règle avant d'exploiter le diamant.
Tout simplement, les exploitants miniers travaillent dans des zones presque fragiles parce qu'ils travaillent dans des marécages et dans des cours d'eau. Forcément, il y aura dégradation du cours d'eau en question qui va entraîner déjà la perte de ce cours d'eau. Et quand il y a dégradation, ça entraîne également des dégradations de tout l'écosystème qui est tout autour de ce cours d'eau.
Industrial and artisanal diamond mining do enormous damage to the environment. Mining destroys farmland and forests and diverts rivers and streams, depositing silt and reducing fish stocks.
Il faut aller vers plus de prise de conscience totale au niveau de la population qui exerce le travail artisanal de recherche de diamants pour pouvoir s'approprier la réhabilitation des zones complètement dégradées et de pouvoir trouver des techniques beaucoup plus adaptées pour moins dégrader le milieu qu'ils utilisent pour l'extraction du diamant.
Réhabilitation.
Training artisans to use these techniques is essential to reduce future damage. Educating miners about environmental rehabilitation goes hand in hand with training focused on alternative livelihoods and agricultural productivity. It helps them to diversify their income and become more self-sufficient in terms of food resources. In the near term, however, training them in diamond valuation is very helpful.
Lorsqu'ils apportent leurs produits aux collecteurs ou au bureau d'achat pour les vendre, ils n'ont pas une idée exacte de la valeur de ces produits, alors que les collecteurs et les agents des bureaux d'achat connaissent très bien cette valeur-là. Et très souvent, ils se font voler.
Alors, il y a 3 grandes formes, il y a 2 grandes formes fondamentales.
The most direct, effective way to increase the income of diamond miners is to train them in diamond valuation.
Et l'octaèdre, il est matérialisé par des masses qui sont...
Learning how to value diamonds put the artisans on a stronger footing in their negotiations with buyers. Recognizing this, PRADD provided artisans in the pilot zone with a basic course in diamond valuation.
Parce que sur le site, déjà, l'ARD a formé les artisans dans le domaine d'évaluation de diamants. En ce moment, dans la zone pilote, il y a des artisans experts évaluateurs de diamants qui connaissent maintenant le diamant. Donc, on ne va plus leur voler par rapport à leurs produits.
Quand même, anangia ngwati so ala muna injoni kode ite isara kwati
Tipe kwa nde mokesala toni na
tipe kwa mbie sara gitoti so ntola fana ipe kwa nte bisara aniso
afana mwatani nya tipe kwa mokesala toni
tipe kwa so tombi wa jama chimbi Donc binga karani so bi petit ene bi gwani bi wangi jada.
Affirming the property rights of miners was the major goal of the PRADD project. Building collaborative partnerships to promote economic development and diversify income sources was also a key objective.
The diamond industry is, of course, very much linked to the global financial crisis. There is no longer the market that existed before, and that changes very much the context in which we're working. We really need to pay more attention to helping our artisanal miners to engage in other activities to diversify.
The global financial crisis and its impact on the local diamond market taught miners the dangers of becoming too dependent on one product. The exercises and the discussions the miners had going through the process provoked them to think and act differently about land use planning, economic development, and natural resource management. In Goto, one of the villages in the pilot zone, PRADD team member François Mbakoto facilitated a lively discussion about readily available alternatives to mining, market opportunities for different food crops, and how to improve productivity in growing basics like potatoes, rice, corn, and manioc.
Banane plantain, riz, sésame, canne à sucre, pommes de terre, na miel.
PRADD project was always presented as a pilot project, and it is our hope that the Central African government will assess this project and select those elements which are most beneficial, and that they will spread these protections for the miners and for the environment across the entire country.
In looking at the whole property rights registration process, it's clear that the effort has far more value than just the documents the miners receive. The process itself promotes ownership and responsibility. It becomes a point of departure for community economic development, environmental rehabilitation, and improved natural resource management. These activities are critical in order to improve the lives of miners and mining communities.